the Trump administration announced this new policy a few weeks ago in which the U.S. government will take children away from their parents if their parents can't provide paperwork at the border. There's been an outcry from the public and now also from members of Congress asking what exactly that policy looks like in real life, where these kids are being held, under what conditions, and how these families are being reunited, if they are, by a government that is forcibly tearing them apart. Joining us now is Lee Gallant. He's the Deputy Director of the National Immigrant Rights Project at the ACLU. Mr. Gallant, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
So Jeff Merkley going down to Texas this weekend put a spotlight on this in a granular way because we don't know how these kids are being held, the circumstances under which they're being held, or whether these families are being permanently separated. Do you know?
Right. They are being separated, and it's going on for months and months and months, and sometimes the parent will be deported and the kid left behind. It's as bad as you can get. But the one thing I do want to emphasize is the issue is ultimately not the conditions where these kids are being sent. These nonprofits are doing the best they can, but they weren't set up to house hundreds and hundreds of little kids. And so they're doing what they can do. The real damage is coming from the separation itself. We've put in enormous medical testimony saying that when a child is ripped away from their parents and is so fearful that they may never see their parents again, that's the real damage. You could make the detention center as good as you want, but the damage is going to come from the separation.
Viscerally, everybody who's ever either had a child or been a child knows that to be the case.
Exactly. And so what the medical people say is, where you get your strength as a child is you feel like at 3 years old, 4 years old, your parents can protect you from the outside world. When you see your parents powerless to protect you, that lasts a lifetime. You are always going to feel vulnerable. That's what the doctors are saying. So this is permanent damage we're doing to these little kids.
How many kids have been taken away from their parents?
But when we filed the lawsuit, it was about 700. Now it's, veering into the almost 2,000, I would say, and there's no end in sight. It's every day children are being taken away.
And in terms of the facilities in which they're being held, I take your point as to what, even if these are the greatest facilities on earth, there's still the damage is done, the trauma is inflicted. But are there facilities, like Senator Merkley alleged this weekend, in which there's upwards of 1,000 kids that are being held?
There are, and that's highly unfortunate. And I think that, the quality varies across the board, and so there are some detention centers that are really bad. There are some that are better. We're not really set up. The government's not set up to house thousands of little children. And it used to be that these centers housed older teenagers who genuinely needed a place to go because they came without their parents. Now we're ripping the kids away, 2 years old, 3 years old, and sending them to detention centers. There's no way these detention centers can handle these kids.
And it's indefinite because it's not like it's not some 2-year-old's been sentenced to something and then gets out on good behavior.
Exactly.
This is an indefinite detention.
So we are hoping that one of our clients is reunited this week, maybe even tomorrow, but it's been 8.5 months already. I mean,
your client is a mother who's been separated from her child for 8.5 months?
Right. And we're hoping, this is the first time I'm saying this publicly on TV or anywhere, we are hoping it happens tomorrow morning.
How old is her child?
Her child is 14, and she hasn't seen him in 8.5 months. It's just horrendous, and it's just constant, so many kids. I think people just at night need to say, I'm not sure what I think about these larger immigration debates, but I don't want to go to sleep thinking about a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old all by themselves in a government facility. It's horrendous.
Lee Gallant is the Deputy Director of the National Immigrant Rights Project at the ACLU. ACLU has put an incredible window on this. Obviously, members of Congress, including Senator Merkley, trying to do so even more. Please keep us apprised. Let us know what happens tomorrow with your client.
I will. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate it. All right.